Batra Daf Samach Vav Amud Aleph, 9 lines down. The last thing we mentioned was a mahloket about whether if something's completed as a utensil previously installing into the ground, whether or not that's considered part of the ground or not. We try to compare it to say that it's Rabbi Eliezer holds against the Breita in about the mikveh. So we brought one proof, we knocked it out that it's not necessarily stira. Now we're going to bring another one. Maybe the question about the contradiction of the Azar is about the daf. Oh, do the daf. It's about the board. What's a board? The time. Mishnah says, daf shanachtu min shekamu b'kotev. A baker's board that was attached to a wall. Baker's board, that means like either a countertop that's installed into the wall that they could work on, or like a shelf that they could display their bread. So in that type of item, the bread, the shelf is made seemingly either made beforehand or not made beforehand. If you stole into the wall, so the other says it's not able to become tameh, which means it's considered part of the ground. It's not considered a utensil. The hachamim means it's considered like a utensil, and therefore it can get tumah. So we didn't say anything about when was the board made? Was it made on the ground attached to the structure or not? So now we're gonna say money. So if that's the case, then who's the author of the mikveh? The problem with the author of the mikveh is the mikveh doesn't hold like either of them. Because why? Even if you hollowed it out while it's attached to the ground, it's still considered detached, and it would make the mikveh pasul, because Rabbi Eliezer holds that it would always be considered sorry, even if it's attached after the fact, it would still be tahor. If you look at it would be pasul even if you did it after the fact. So what the Batra of Mikveh doesn't fit according to any of them. So Mar says no. Maybe it's Israel. It is going to be Ezer. The Ezer hold that if it's first made and then attached to the ground, it's considered still the utensil. Oh, so how come by the baker it's not? The reason why that the wooden board by the baker is different because a wooden board becoming tameh is only halakha drabanan, and in that case, there's no reason to be mahmir on it that it's considered detached. We could say it's considered attached, but in general, the Ezra would hold that it's not considered attached. That sounds like that if you're drawing water, in general, drawn water that's added to a mikveh after the 40 se'ah. Right, we mentioned earlier that you have 40 se'ah mikveh, it's a kosher mikveh, and now you have these water it's not sure if it's considered drawn or rainwater. We said it's considered pasul. So we said maybe that's because it's doraita, but the problem is it's not. We know that it's drabanan. So if that case is drabanan and it still disqualifies the mikveh, so how come we're machmir by the baker? Doesn't make sense if it's both drabanan. Another question about how Amar Rabbi Hanina b'daf shel mater b'halkid. The halkid between Rabbi Eliezer and Chachamim is actually talking about a metal board. There wasn't no wooden board attached to the structure of the bakery that made it that it's wood, and therefore it's drabanan. Rather, it's metal, and therefore it's deraita. So now Rabbi Eliezer does not fit with the mikveh at all. So the Gemara says, okay, fine. Maybe the breita of the mikveh is Chachamim. V'sha'ani she'iva drabanan. And why is it that we say that the the water by the mikveh does not make it pasul according to Chachamim? Is because it's only drabanan. If that's the case, that it's considered drabanan. If that's the case, then who cares how the thing was made? Even if you hollowed it out, you made the cleave for the mikveh and then attached it to the ground, it should also be tahor. Or I said no. Difference over there is because when you made it beforehand, then attached it to the ground, it already became a cleave from beforehand. You can't remove the status of a cleave. Moving on, continuing with questions about things are considered utensils or attached to the ground. We're going to move on to making food mikabel tumah. We mentioned when does wood become tameh? When does metal become tameh? Now we're talking about food. In general, food can become tameh if it touches water. However, that only is if you want the water. If you want it to get washed. Now, the question is, what if Meaning, if let's say you didn't want your food to get wet, then that water does not make it eligible to become tameh. Now, what if you wanted the water but for a different reason? If you wanted rainwater, you wanted the rainwater to land on your millstone to wash it off. What's halacha if that rainwater went on the seeds? Do we say that since the millstone's attached to the ground, then the seeds don't become tameh? Or maybe it's not considered part of the ground, and therefore the rainwater can make it tameh. According to the Ezra holder, if it's attached to the ground, I don't care how you made it. If it's attached to the ground, that's always considered attached. Obviously, he holds it's considered land, and it won't become tameh. The question is, according to Hamim, that says that if you create it beforehand and then attached to the ground is considered not considered land. What's our regarding over here? Ramon says Teku, we don't have an answer. Next case of a millstone regarding land. So in general, a person who gives his daughter, a guy who passes away, if he has daughters, they are eligible to receive a dowry when they get married. If he has previous daughters and then he died and other daughters had gotten married, you can match the same amount that he gave. If we don't know how much he would have given because there's no daughters, for example, well, they automatically get 10%. So that's only from real estate, but not from movable objects. When a woman comes over for you to claim her dowry, give her 10%. Even from the millstone. This shows that it's real property because otherwise she can't claim that. All right, we see from these others considered attached to the ground, even if it's completed from beforehand. When Rav Kahana would even allow this woman to collect from her father's dowry, even from rent that was eligible to be paid, he was very mekil. Okay, no Mishnah. Someone selling a courtyard. So we mentioned the house. Now we're saying, what if you sell just the courtyard? You sell the small houses or the pits and ditches or the holes in the courtyard. Not movable objects. If the guy says, I'm selling you everything and everything inside of it, everything's included. In both cases, however, you automatically are never selling the bathhouse or olive press that's on the property, even if you're saying I'm selling everything inside, because those things are usually used by the general public around the property, and therefore the guy obviously did not mean to include it in part of the sale because that's more hashu. Okay. But the answer says, you're selling a courtyard. You're only selling the general area of the chatzer. You're not selling anything on top, nothing below, nothing on top. Everything is excluded from the sale. If someone's selling a courtyard, he sells the outer houses, the inner houses, right? The houses that are opening up into the courtyard, etc. So the inner houses would be the one that are, let's say, on the street. The outer house goes towards the courtyard. Okay. And also sand fields. If the guy have fields of sand that they use for making glass, that's also considered also sold. If the shops that they have on the property that open to the courtyard are sold with the courtyard. If it's not open to the courtyard, rather they're open only to the street, those shops are not considered part of the sale. It's open both ways, both of them are sold. Okay. They are sold. Okay, these are says same Rabbi Eliezer as the Mishnah. If you're selling a courtyard, you only sell the airspace, the general area, but nothing on top or on bottom. Okay, I'm on more. We mentioned that if the shops are open to both the courtyard and the street, it's considered sold. But Rabbi says that you're not. It's not automatically included. The Gemara says, La kasha, not a stira. The first part is that it's considered sold. That's where the shop's business is inside the courtyard. Most people come through the courtyard. Therefore, it's considered part of the courtyard and sold. But in the Braita says that it's not sold. The Rov Tashmitel the Batra is that's where the shop's business is done from the outside, and therefore it's not considered part of the sale. Okay,